Good morning, Brussels. How's everybody this morning? All right, so I'm going to immediately go completely off script and do a little audience participation game I always like. Because for those who've been around for a long time, I think this is, of course, before we had OCX, we had EclipseCon. I think, depending on how you want to count, we've done somewhere between 22 and 30 various events of this size and caliber. And so I want to start off by asking everybody who's been to, let's start at 10. 10 EclipseCons or OCXs or more, stand up. All right, there's our old guys. All right, stay standing. All right, if you've been to 6 or more, stand up. All right, if you've been to 5, stand up. 4, 3, 2. All right, sit down. All right, so stand up if this is your first OCX. So welcome to the Open Community Experience, and I really hope that this week will be a fantastic experience for you. The Eclipse community prides itself on being an open and welcoming community. This is a chance for you, new people in particular, to spend a week learning and making new friends and new relations in the tech industry that can, in the case of many of us who've been here for 10 or more, have basically lasted a lifetime. This is my favorite week of the year. Of course, I ended up being exhausted by the end of the week, but it is the opportunity for us to all reconnect and rebuild those human relationships that make the rest of the year, when we're working from our dining rooms and bedrooms and sometimes offices, make it all go by so quickly until we meet again. So thank you. And with that, let's get to the regularly scheduled show. So this is the State of the Union talk. I'm going to do a few welcoming comments, of course, and then talk about a few of the projects that I think are in technology areas that I think are particularly exciting, and then kind of draw your attention to some of the things that we think are going to be particularly fun and interesting at OCX this year. And well, first of all, I mean, this is Brussels. This is the home of the Eclipse Foundation, but this is a global community, and I'm really pleased to say welcome to people from over 40 countries from around the world. That's really impressive, so thank you. I know we've got a speaker here from Shanghai, we've got people from all over the place, and I think that's just fantastic. So thank you so much for those who traveled from far away. But really, this whole week is a celebration of our projects and the people that make our projects real. And so I'd like to really call out over 400 projects, but call out a couple of new ones that I think are particularly interesting. The first one we actually have a talk on tomorrow. Axel Wu will be talking about Eclipse Azimuth Sailing Analytics. The cool thing about that is it's built on top of a lot of the traditional Eclipse technologies. Think OSGI, think RCP, think modeling tools, and so on. But it has actually helped run the sailing event at 2 Olympics. And I think that's really cool to see our technologies being used in those kinds of ways. Another one that's really interesting, in open hardware, we have Core ET, which is a whole new processor family that's been contributed to the Open Hardware Foundation, helping extend the RISC-V ISA ecosystem into, in this particular case, AI processors. So building a whole family of AI processors in open source, I think, is really cool. And then Eclipse SDV landscape. The SDV area is one of probably the fastest growing area, software-defined vehicle at the Eclipse Foundation. And just, it's gotten so complicated, we need a landscape project to help explain it so you can sort of picture how all of these things fit together. So there's just a couple of new and interesting projects at the Eclipse Foundation that have joined the family of 400 projects at Eclipse. Now, of course, we would not be here with the help of many. And so I really want to thank all of the people who work so hard on the program committees. Angelica, who's the program chair. Stand up and give a wave, Angelica, please. Thank you. Melanie Batts, who helped chair the tools thing and tools track. Andreas Rexinger, who has been a fixture in our automotive community for years. Thank you so much. Lena Bucher, who worked on the open community for compliance, and Sebastian Schilt, who helped with the open community for research. So all of these separate program chairs have helped build the events that we are co-locating here at Open Community Experience, and with their program committees. They put in a lot of thankless hours so that we are getting a week filled with interesting and educational talks by great speakers. Again, thank you everybody who volunteered on the program committees. And of course, then there's the team that actually produces the show. So Aurélie is probably way in the back, but hi, Aurélie. Aurélie and her team have done amazing work to bring us here. She's particularly proud of this venue because Brussels is her hometown, and she loves to be able to produce a world-class event in Brussels. But the whole team has put in, untold hours. Oh, there she is. Hey, Aurélie. Untold hours to make this all possible. So thank you. And of course, we wouldn't be here without our sponsors. So platinum sponsors, Huawei and OpenVSX, and the gold sponsors, SAP, Reply, LG Electronics, and Red Hat. Thank you so much. Thank you all of the sponsors for making this event possible. Putting on an event like this does not happen without the support of our sponsorship community, and it's really been great to see 29 sponsors in support of OCX this year, which is fantastic. Thank you so much. And of course, thank you to our members. Now, I think if we put all of our members on a slide, they'd be about 3 pixels each, so that wasn't going to work. So these are our strategic members, and I'm happy to point out that there's a new one up there, actually. So last week, Google has joined the Eclipse Foundation, has increased their membership as a strategic member, and will be joining our board. But thank you to all of our strategic members that help support the operations of the Eclipse Foundation. Your support is absolutely critical to the operations of the foundation and our community. All right, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about some of the interesting things that are happening at the Eclipse Foundation. And we have Open Community for Compliance happening this week. And of course, the centerpiece there is the Open Regulatory Compliance Working Group. This is a working group that's been focused on they have a broader remit, but the focus up to this point has entirely been on the Cyber Resilience Act and building out a open source community response to the regulation that is coming. The first steps in the CRA implementation is happening in September. Full implementation happens in December of 2027. But the ORC working group has been doing fantastic work. I mean, one of the things that I'm particularly proud of is we have over 20 open source foundations collaborating together at ORC, and I've been doing open source now for 22 years. This is the first time I'm aware of where you have over 20 open source foundations working together on a particular topic, and I and my colleagues at the Eclipse Foundation take the trust of those other foundations as being a neutral place for them to come and do that work. We take that trust very, very seriously and treat it with great respect. We want to really focus on making sure that the implementation of the CRA is going to be ultimately a good thing for the open source community and for the manufacturers that have to produce products, but primarily for the consumers of digital products are having much higher degree of cybersecurity in those products going forward. So the ORC working group has been doing a lot of different things. One of the most visible is the FAQ, which is the frequently asked questions, which has become a centerpiece of anybody who wants to understand the CRA from an open source or a manufacturer's perspective. The FAQ is an incredible resource. We've also got an attestations project that is working on what are the voluntary attestations going to look like for open source projects going forward. And all of this effort has been led by Juan and Shanda and others from the Eclipse Foundation, but with help of the community in support with the foundations, but manufacturers like Red Hat and Microsoft, Google, and others. And this week we're actually launching a CRA training course to help educate developers about what they need to do in order to get ready for the CRA. So if you're not familiar with ORC, you should get yourself familiar with it. And in particular, if you work for a manufacturer and you're not already working on how you're going to do CRA compliance, you're late. You should definitely start spending time learning, and ORC is probably the best place to learn about what it is that you're going to need to do. But also join ORC, because ORC is becoming one of the best places to influence the regulations that are being developed, because this is not done yet. There's still a myriad of regulations and details that have to be worked out, and a lot of that work is happening at ORC. ESCOR, I think, is one of the cooler projects we have at the Eclipse Foundation. So I mentioned earlier that Eclipse SDV software-defined vehicle is one of the fastest growing areas in the Eclipse community. ESCOR is a platform project for building middleware for the software-defined vehicle. And this is led by BMW, Bosch, Conti, ETAS, and others, building out a legit platform. And one of the things I find particularly exciting about this is when we started SDV, the mantra was code first, and we built up a whole bunch of projects, but it was starting to look like a box of Legos, right? It was like a set of components that you could put together yourself, and they were useful individually, but really an open source platform is how you really drive industry change and adoption. And ESCOR wants to be that platform. And I think that's super exciting to see a open, vendor-neutral attempt to build something of this complexity while also tackling on the topic of doing functional safety in open source. I think that's an incredible opportunity for the Eclipse Foundation, the Eclipse SDV community to really have a major impact on the future of the automotive industry. Eclipse ThreadX is 6.5 was shipped last month. This is a really interesting project because it has the opportunity to extend into the RISC-V ecosystem for ThreadX. And this is the first and currently only community-led, permissively licensed, open source real-time operating system that has been safety certified. And on the schedule for the remainder of this year is to up-level the safety certifications for ThreadX. But this is an opportunity to really have an impact in so many ways. Open Hardware Foundation is another area of really interesting growth. Talked already about the fact that we have Core ET, a whole new family of processors. But the original family of processors, the Core 5, including CVA6, is starting to really hit its stride in terms of adoption and use, including new additions, contributions on CVA6 Safe from Thales for functional safety relevant capabilities in the processor level. And we also are putting CVA6 in space with a project from the University of Saskatchewan that is radiation hardened version of CVA6 for use in space. We're also really embracing the CHIPS JU and the work that's happening at the European level with projects like Rigoletto and Turandot and Tristan, and these are also having a major positive impact on the open hardware community. Eclipse Trustable Software Framework is I think one of the cooler things that's happening at Eclipse, because this is really a process framework that is going, I think, really change this and enhance the state of the art when we talk about the quality of software. Used to be security people and there's safety people, and they are often at odds with one another. Security people say update all the time. Safety people say once you're done, you never change anything. And these days, you have to have both. You can't be safe and insecure. So Trustable Software Framework gives you a way to reason about the trust that you can place in a piece of software by not only measuring safety, but also measuring security, measuring provenance, measuring all of the things that you go into. Is this piece of software trustable? There's a number of talks that are happening this week on the topic, and if you're not familiar with Trustable Software Framework, I highly recommend it. OpenVSX is one of the most important projects that we have at Eclipse. And OpenVSX is a service that we run that provides visual code extensions. We started this off in support of Eclipse Theia and Eclipse 5 years ago. It was basically because the Microsoft VS Code extension registry, their terms of use says you can only use it with Microsoft products. We needed a way to have VS Code extensions available for our projects and other open source projects as well. It was an interesting kind of experiment, and for a bunch of years it was a nice little service that we ran. It took us about 5 years to get to the point where we were doing 50 million downloads a month. And then this thing called AI, and particularly AI development, all of a sudden became the rage. And all of the open source, all of the tools, many of which are open source, that are based on forks of VS Code. Think Amazon Kiro, think Google Anti-Gravity, think Cursor, Windsurf, Project Bob. They all started using OpenVSX. So it took 5 years to get to 50 million downloads a month. Then it took about 9 months to go from 50 million to 110 million. Then it took about 10 weeks to go from 110 million to 300 million. Like, you do the math, right? And OpenVSX has now become critical infrastructure for the AI development landscape. And I think that we have gone from, it's an open source project with a service that is kind of nice for some open source people to play around with, to this is now critical infrastructure. So this morning we launched the Eclipse Foundation's first software as a service product. And that's the OpenVSX Managed Registry. So we now have customers paying us for a service level agreement for access to OpenVSX with a 99.95 uptime expectation, credits if we fail, all of the things that you would expect from an SLA. Our launch partners include Amazon Web Services, Google, and Cursor. And this is a terribly exciting moment, not only for the Eclipse Foundation, but for open source community as a whole, because Python with PyPI, Rust with crates.io, Maven, NPM, all of these package repositories are dying under the load that's largely being driven by agentic AI development. And we're the leaders in figuring out a sustainable business model that will allow these registries to continue to exist. Because right now, relying upon donations is a fundamentally broken approach to supporting these systems. So an amazing amount of work has gone into making this day possible. I want to thank Tabang and others for making this launch happen. It is definitely a huge moment, not only for the Eclipse Foundation and this open source project, but for the open source community as a whole. And then, of course, Theia is one of the projects that really spurred the creation of OpenVSX. This is a platform for doing extensible developer tools that is based on modern web technologies. In many ways, it's recreating the success of the original Eclipse platform, but now doing it with TypeScript and these modern technologies. It won the Cody Award this year for the best open source development tool, something that we should all be very proud of. It's seeing increasingly broad adoption across the industry. If you're an Arduino hacker, you're probably using Theia. Samsung just launched a product based on top of it. This is starting to see real industry adoption, and it's a huge success from the Eclipse Foundation. And with Theia AI and its recent bundling of the Claude model, you've got a really great AI development tool, 100% in open source out of the box. So all of these bits and pieces are coming towards really building a digital autonomy for Europe platform. And we've all heard mention of this notion of a Eurostack. I actually think that we need multiple Eurostacks. Whether you're talking about not just about cloud, but also automotive, like what we're doing in SDV and others. But if you look at what we're doing with Open Hardware Group, with ThreadX and RTOS, and developer tools, application building blocks, and now package distribution and building out the AI infrastructure that's supporting all of that, the Eclipse Foundation is leading the way for the strategic autonomy of Europe. All right, just Just a couple of things to think about. It's your last, over the next couple of days, I picked a couple of sessions that I think will be pretty cool. The AI in action, I just mentioned Theia AI, is tomorrow. Trustable software framework, I think that's really worth a look-see. How to become a trusted CRA steward for open source projects. If you work for a manufacturer and you have to ship products next year, you're going to want to learn how to do this. Open source strategies for digital sovereignty, I think, is another interesting talk. So these are all just ideas to think about of talks you might want to go to. And of course, we have birds of feather sessions. These are really fun, little community gatherings, highly valuable. And then we have a number of networking events. Networking reception tonight. We have a stand-up comedy show and another networking reception tomorrow night. And with that, have fun and enjoy OCX. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce the next keynote speaker, Yuta Liu, from Huawei, who is going to be talking to us about Open Harmony, unleashing surging connected and intelligent innovation. I'm sure everybody has a smartphone in your pocket today. Open Harmony is a new operating system that is really changing how these technologies can interact with the other devices around us. I think this is a really exciting technology. Of course, we also have the Oniro project, which is a European distribution of Open Harmony, and I think that's a really great model for us to see how to bring technologies from around the world for use in Europe. So with that, Yuta Liu, thank you very much.